Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, MotoAmerica fans. Welcome to this latest episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You know, I think we're getting close to 250 here, but at any rate, I'm Sean Bice, the Bice in the Carruthers and Bice, and I'm joined today, as always, by our communications manager, Paul Carruthers, who's out in California. I'm in Central Ohio. Paul, almost up to 250. We're going to have to do another celebration of some kind, I think.
Yeah, I think we should just celebrate every time we do one.
I think you're right. I mean, just to get another one in the can is kind of a big deal. So, you know, it's good, but you know, we'll have another one next week, which will be video form when we're at the track. Those are always good because we've got cameras and mics and headphones, and it really works out well. Obviously, we don't have the capabilities to really do that when we're not in the same area, but you know, there might be some things coming down. We're always tweaking things, it seems like. I mean, we've done that with, you know, Paul, let's talk about this for a minute. We've done that with the press conferences. Man, you think about with our press conferences, holding a little iPhone steady while you were talking to people. Now it's really advanced. It's so much better than it was.
Yeah, it's crazy. Before it was like, you know, you were sitting there almost drawing pictures of us while we were doing it, you know, and then showing those. But yeah, it's a lot different. The technology changes all the time, and it's you know, we've got some help now from Audio Technica. Correct me on that. What's the name of the company?
Audio Technica.
Yeah, Audio Technica. But and that's helped a lot because their equipment's so awesome. It makes a big difference in the quality, and obviously the fans like it better. And yeah, we'll get to try that stuff out again. And like you said, do a video version from Pittsburgh. It looks like we're going to have JD Beach, which will be kind of exciting.
Yeah, that'll be good. It's always good to have him on. And I don't know, Paul, are you thinking you might, I guess I'm going to telegraph this to you, but you think you might be doing maybe a beach break too while we're there? I mean, you used to, those were well received by the fans.
Yeah, it's funny because I already got some emails and messages from people, and I thought maybe they'd forget what it was, but people were commenting, you know, like, oh, we need to get a beach break from there. So I'm sure we'll do that. We'll just have to think of a good guest for him to ask us crazy questions to. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Pittsburgh. It's one of our favorites. I know the riders like it. I see you did a story this morning on the website talking about just that. But it's a cool little track. It's a fun place to watch. You go up there on Spectator Hill, and you can kind of roam around most of the track, and it's just got a good vibe to it, and I like the city, and I kind of like everything about it.
Yeah, I do too. It grows on you too. I mean, it was weird, maybe even for us, but maybe for the fans in the beginning, because we used to go to Mid-Ohio. Of course, I think we get a lot of that crowd there. I hear from a lot of people in Ohio, and you know, Mid-Ohio is only 45 minutes from me, but this is only a few hours over to Pittsburgh, and I really like it. I mean, the layout of the track is fantastic, and as you mentioned in that story I wrote, I got some quotes from some of the riders that, you know, they just love it. And it's kind of like that among all the riders. One of the things I had to change up is originally we had 41 entries in Super Sport and only 40 in Twins Cup. So Super Sport had the most entrants, but I guess another one got added. And I don't think it's our guest that got added. I think he was on the list, but right now we've got a tie for the most entrants between Twins Cup and Super Sport. And that makes sense because for sure Twins Cup has been real popular, and we're going to see an additional rider who hasn't been with our series since, I guess it was last year. He raced the last two rounds of last year. Spencer Humphreys from Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, which is up in the Poconos. And there's kind of an interesting story about that town that we can get into. Maybe we'll ask Spencer about it a little bit, but Spencer's raced off and on with us over the years. He probably more East Coast than anything. He's got an older brother named Tyler who also raced with us. So, but Spencer will be back. He's racing at Pittsburgh, and he's graduated up from last year. He was Junior Cup. He's going to be Twins Cup this year on a BartCon Racing Yamaha YZF R7. So he's still connected with that crazy person, Colin Barton, who we say that affectionately, but he does a good job of getting various riders into our series. And we hadn't seen him much earlier this year because one of his riders, Dominic Doyle, has been racing for Team ESO. So Spencer will actually be racing against Dominic Doyle at this point. But Spencer, we're welcome to the podcast and welcome back to MotoAmerica. We're glad you're going to be racing with us next week. How's everything going with you?
It's great. First off, thank you guys so much for having me on this this podcast. I feel very legit being on here. It's very cool. But yeah, I feel really confident, feel really good. We got a solid 3 days of testing on the bike, and yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is a crazy track for sure. It's super physical, it's, I would say, almost probably one of the best tracks we have on the calendar for sure, just because the facilities, the pavement, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I feel really good.
Now, being that you're from Northeast Pennsylvania, you're probably, I would hazard a guess here that probably New Jersey Motorsports Park is what you'd consider your home track. Is that right?
Yeah, bingo. Yeah, Pittsburgh is about 5 hours from me, and Jersey's only about 2.
Right.
I also, yeah, and Jersey's where I really started my whole spiel, my whole career. NJ Mini GP. I started there, and I was actually terrified of motorcycles up until that point. And I was like maybe 14, and Scott Stump, old flat tracker. Yeah, Scott Stump. He was big into the minis back then. He also brought through so many riders like Gus Rodeo, Jake Leahy, who kind of faded out and everything. But yeah, he was like the factory team of Mini GP. So if you were on like Stump Racing Kids, it was like a big thing, And yeah, my older brother Tyler, as you mentioned, also rides, and he was doing the 3-day camp. I was just watching, just wheeling my bike around and whatever. And Scott came up to me and was like, "Hey, I have a suit and a bike. You want to ride tomorrow?" I was like, "Oh, you know what? Why not? I'll try it out." And as soon as I did, it was like literally the first session out. I was just like, "Whoa!" Like it was like mind-boggling to me just how cool it felt, how fun it was, and everything. Like in between sessions, I wouldn't even take my helmet off or anything. The bike had a kickstand. I didn't put it on the kickstand. I just like sat on the bike, just like looking off into the distance, like quiet, didn't talk to anybody, and was just waiting for the next session. But yeah.
Well, what was your fear of motorcycles before that? Where did that stem from?
The fear was I kind of grew up riding dirt bikes, but not like really. Like my dad always had us on something. Like my older brothers had like some like modded up KX 65s, and then I had this KTM 50. And KTM 50s are a terrifying machine. Even
they're a handful.
I view it still that way today, because like they'll blow like a 150 out of the water, just because that power band on those things it's aggressive, So yeah, thing just scared me, and I think I may have crashed like once, and I was like, nope, that's it. Like I'm done. I was like shaking in my boots. So yeah. So that from that point on, I like swore motorcycles out of my life, and then Mini GP brought that all back for me.
Yeah, and then Spencer, you can give us a background on this, but last year you basically, I'm going to say showed up at New Jersey, but you were there. You put it on the podium, excuse me, in the very first race, and came into the press conference, and we'd remembered you a little bit, but we weren't. I don't know if your hair was longer or what was going on, but when you sat down, Paul and I were kind of impressed with the fact that you're very well spoken, and you can tell you are from this podcast already. But give us that background leading up to that, because you had raced with us prior to this. Had it been in Junior Cup all the time prior, because and also, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but you're making your debut at Pittsburgh in Twins Cup. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So yeah, I first got the jump in MotoAmerica with the Veloce team when Max Toth what was that, 2 years ago now.
Yes.
Yeah, Max Toth had crashed and was injured, and they were looking for a fill-in rider. And just to stem it back to Mini GP, Anthony Mazziato, who also started there, was also he was kind of like a wild card rider. I think his first race 2 years ago was at the Ridge in the Twins Cup, and the team was looking for a fill-in, and Maz was like, "Oh, like I may know a guy." So I got that call, and that call was like the craziest thing of my life at that point. It was, like that's really what every rider dreams of, like just a full, just show up and ride, and that's it. But yeah, the whole Veloce team was incredible. The whole experience was uncanny. It's still crazy to me to this day, just because it was just show up to the track. We had espresso trackside, which was just crazy. It does, like, anybody who doesn't ride may not like realize how crazy that is, but I don't know, the espresso was a big thing for me. But yeah, it was like my own hotel room, just like pay for travel to get to the track and so on. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy because the jump, I'd never ridden a 400, never been on Dunlop tires, never rode at Pittsburgh. And that whole year too, I had a track day under my belt. So like that was it. I was going into and on a SV 650, my brother Tyler's actually, a 650. And then yeah, like a week or two, I got that call. I was like, oh my God. And then yeah, I still had some pretty good pace in the races. Nothing too crazy, but like race 2 at Pittsburgh was, I think I got 10th, but I was battling for like 9th or 8th. And that felt like I just won the race to me, like just with riding with the riders that have been racing each other all year, and just to like be up there right away like that was huge. But yeah, the whole thing's crazy to me. But yeah, I rode Pitt, Jersey, and then Barber. Barber was pure rain, and I will say it, although riders should not say it, I do not like the rain. It's not my favorite thing. But yeah, Jersey was also good. I think I got 7th place. So each weekend was just getting better and better, and each session was less and less time off my time. So yeah, it was crazy. And then last year, me and my brother had some type of pipe dream that, okay, like, we're gonna do our own race team and everything. And Veloce had actually gifted me that 400, which I still ride today. I'll ride it on a big track, but also the kart track, just take the fairings off and whatnot. But all I knew I needed really was just more track time, because obviously the year before it was just like hop on the bike. Okay, I have no idea what I'm doing or how to do it, to be honest, because riding at that level on even the smaller bikes, it's a whole different form and technique of how you have to really approach that type of thing. But yeah, I just knew I needed more track time. And I told my brother maybe a month or two before the race, I was like, dude, I think I'm gonna run up with Gus and Joe, because like I've grown up with Gus and Joe, and also Kayla. I've ridden a lot with Kayla as well, but they also came from Mini GP. So I've done mini races with them. I've even beaten them in mini races. So I'm like, all right, well, if I can do it on the mini bike, I don't see why not on the big bike. And then yeah, my brother kind of put a chip on my shoulder, which I'm still kind of grateful for, because it was just. Am I still on? Sorry, I think I just got a phone call.
No, you
You're
are.
good, you're good.
Okay. My apologies.
Right.
And then yeah, I was like, oh, I think I can do it. And he was like, I guess, whatever. And I'm like, all right, watch. Like, I just, going into that weekend, I put my heart and soul, and I worked maybe like 80 hours in a work week. It was like, because I had a lot of sponsors that helped me out a lot, but it was also a lot coming from my own pocket, and also my parents for sure. They helped out a lot, but I just put so much into it. I was like, I don't want to just like show up and shoot for a top five, like I know I have the pace and the willpower to like really put it up on the box. And yeah, it's what we did. And yeah, with the whole pipe dream thing too, we were like, yeah, we'll do our race team, da da da. And it was like a month or two before Jersey, and Tyler was like, all right, so how much money do you have? And I was like, oh, I was like, not enough. And he was like, well, we can't do it. We can't do it. And I was like, oh my God. And then he was like, oh, well, we can get the ride with BartCon with Mike Scroney for, X amount of dollars. So right there, I said, all right, fine, let's do it. And then, yeah, and then the rest is history.
So that ride you had last year, was that on a BartCon bike or your bike?
That was the BartCon bike.
Right. And then this year you're on an R7, which is that Dom Doyle's previous R7, or is it a different one? What is it exactly?
It is the same bike that Dom was racing last year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's frame this a little bit so people understand. So this is interesting. You can explain this to us. Veloce Racing, when you raced for them, was Nobi Iso part of that team?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you had a history with Nobi, and obviously Nobi Iso is now hooked up with Chuck Giacchetto and Westby Racing and Jock Moto Racing, and that's Dominic Doyle's racing for Nobi there. Veloce's not in the paddock now, but Dominic has the connection with Colin Barton as well, and obviously you do. So you must know Dom fairly well, and like you said, Gus and all those guys. You're kind of around with all these riders, I guess. So racing against Dom or with Dom or however you're going to do it is going to be kind of interesting for you, I would think.
Oh, big time. Yeah, this whole twins class is just, it's fully stacked. There's no question about that. And also, I mean, the Junior Cup grid was also pretty stacked last year as well, but this, we got a lot more seasoned vets out there this year, like the Dom Doyles, the Hayden Schultz, just characters like that. Rocco Landers as well. It's, that's the top shotter right there. But
yeah, and Gus is obviously doing great. Gus Rodeo, he's kind of arguably doing better in twins than he was in Junior Cup, and he did decent in Junior Cup as well, won races and stuff. Obviously finished in the championship. I shouldn't say he didn't do well. He did actually very well, but he really made the jump and is continuing to do well, and that's one of your guys too, right?
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's kind of weird to say, but a while ago, I was like, I don't know, like my riding style, I really feel like it fits like a faster, more horsepower, more torqueier bike. And I think you could almost say the same for Gus. Even when Gus was on the 400, just his style of riding it obviously worked out, but it was very aggressive, very like assertive. So like right then and there, I knew that Gus would obviously be up front like he is now. But yeah, just his style in general, I think it really points towards a faster bike for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. That's good analysis, Spencer, because I couldn't really articulate what I meant by that, because Gus had an amazing Junior Cup career, and I didn't mean to disparage him, but you're right. It's like, man, he's really taken to like a duck to water with that Twins Cup bike, and I think you're right, that style. So that sounds like it's going to suit you pretty well at Pittsburgh next weekend then.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I love the R7. It just feels so much tighter, the frame isn't like a 660 frame per se, but it is a hell of a lot stiffer than say a Ninja 400 frame. Yeah, I did a CCS race on my 400, and it was like the first couple sessions out, like practice or qualifying or whatever. And I was like, yo, I think this bike is broken just because that was all I had known. And then before that, I was also riding the R7. So once I hopped back on that on a big track, I was like, I just, I felt the frame flexing. I felt it just eats up bumps a lot, which is good for Jersey, but it's very a very flexy frame for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that quite a bit. Now, I originally remember, I remember talking to Colin Barton earlier in the year, and I think I spoke to you a little bit too with this idea that later in the year you were going to be racing at Pittsburgh. So this has kind of been in the cards for a while. You've got to be chomping at the bit at this point to be after you've had to kind of wait for it to get here. You've been probably checking off the calendar each day, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the whole story to even how I got here today is absurd. It was, I went into this year not having really, I had like one offer for a junior cup ride, and I one, the funds weren't there, and two, I really didn't want to be in junior cup. I really want to try to follow Gus and Joe and and Kayla and all them. I want to move up with them. I want to go where the competition's at. But yeah, we had we had a crazy sponsor come aboard, and they were like, all right, we're gonna do a race team, and we're gonna do this, that, and the other, get you a suit, gonna buy the bike off Mike Scroney, and then Mike Scroney's gonna be the crew chief, and so on. And then it was maybe 2 months ago, it was just like, it was looking a little iffy. Like they weren't really sure what direction we were gonna go at that point. And I was like, damn. And then yeah, so then they fully pulled out, and Scroney actually had to buy the bike back from them, buy all the spares, like the whole package, right? So he had to buy it back. And yeah, at that point it was like, oh, am I even going to be able to race Pittsburgh or Jersey at this point? But yeah, I mean, we got everything back. We've been getting a lot of seat time in on it, and yeah, it feels great.
Okay, so you've got at least one race scheduled with us, probably two. How much other racing do you do throughout the year, or is it just basically not?
I mean, I've actually only done one CCS weekend on the R7 down at Summit Point, and then I just did a CCS race on the 400. I was riding the 400 just because we didn't technically own the R7 by that point, so it's still up in the air. But yeah, I'm just making it out to the track like it's my job. And same thing I did last year. Every weekend I've been at the track. I've been riding, I've been running, I've been working out. But yeah, it's good. It's good. I think once I get into the race atmosphere, it'll be, I'll just lock in right there. But I've had a fair amount of seat time, and I have a good feeling with the bike, with racing up against other people.
Now, do you have another job? I mean, obviously racing isn't your full-time job at this point, but
Yeah.
do you have a daily job?
I do have. I'm a shift manager at Whiz Kids. It's a gourmet cheesesteak shop in Easton, Pennsylvania. But yeah, it's a cool story over there too, because the owners are great guys, and they see that this is like my dream and everything. So even last year they threw me some bucks for Jersey and Barber, that was, yeah. And they're also helping out this year too. So I put in around 40-hour weeks. But that's just with like every weekend off and just, making it out to the track. Usually I'll be putting in around 50 hours, but yeah.
Oh, Spencer, we got to get into a couple of unusual conversations here, starting with
Hit me.
kids. Okay, so I'm just going to base this. I'm going to put two and two together here. Is that place called Whiz Kids because Philadelphia cheesesteaks, they make it with Cheese Whiz? Is that how you guys do it?
Yeah, so we do it with Cheese Whiz, but it's not like the stuff from a can. It's kind of we make everything. Yeah, we make everything in house. We make our own marinara. the whiz is like a Wernet, so it's like a cheese sauce. It's got flavor in it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do everything fresh. We cook onions, we dice tomatoes. Nothing's like prepackaged or anything. So yeah, yeah.
That's cool. No, I thought I said, well, whiz kids. I immediately thought of cats, and you know how I know that's their specialty is that cheese whiz thing. So I figured with you being in Eastern Pennsylvania, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's something I completely off the topic that I need to ask you about. You're from Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, which is fascinating to me for a couple of reasons. One of them, and this is if George Nisani or the Nisanis are listening down in Altus, Oklahoma, Jim Thorpe is from Oklahoma. He I think originally the tribe of Indians that he was involved in, or Native Americans, was down or was in Michigan, but they ended up going to Oklahoma, like the Choctaw Indians that the Nisanis are a part of. So the interesting thing is he wasn't from Pennsylvania, but he went to Carlisle School, which was they called it in quote Indian school back in the day. It was kind of a college, but I guess you guys, it's been named Jim Thorpe kind of out of respect for him and the fact that he kind of, went to school in that area. But did you guys ever learn about Jim Thorpe, or do you know anything about him?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's
a rundown.
It's such a strange story because it's like the thing was he never even stepped foot in the town, you know, like he really didn't have any type of relation to the town. And when he died, I think what Jim Thorpe used to be called Mock Chunk.
That's
And
right.
the chunkers were like, no, like give us his body and we're gonna bury him in the town and then call it Jim Thorpe. I'm not sure exactly what the fascination. He was definitely a great athlete, don't get me wrong, but you know, just very, very odd because it's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, give me his body, we're gonna name this town after him and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely strange. It's definitely strange.
But when you were in school, did you guys ever learn about him, or was there anything in growing up where you were kind of taught to know some stuff?
A little bit. I wasn't actually born in Jim Thorpe. I was born
Oh,
in New Hope, Pennsylvania, actually, and we moved here when I was 14. So I've lived here for about 6 years now.
okay.
And I was actually homeschooled up until sophomore year, so up until I was like 16. But yeah, yeah. So I didn't get like the elementary learning, like, oh, Jim Thorpe did this and so on. But my dad and mom actually own a trolley business. And my dad does like the trolley tours and everything like that. So he knows like the full history. If he was here, he would give you the full rundown for sure. But
So you're from well, not kind of. I think you guys are in the Poconos, aren't you?
yeah, yeah, I think it's like maybe on the border, but you know, if anyone asks, I'm like, yeah, I'm in the Poconos, you know.
Do you ski or snowboard or any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, big time. I'm a
Yeah.
big time skier. Big time skier.
Yeah. I figured that area is really good for it, and there's a lot of places to go up there for sure.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Pocono Speedway?
Yeah, I actually do. When was I up there last? I did do a track day with Evolve maybe like a month or two ago. Super fun. We didn't do the banking or anything, but the whole facility is super cool. And it's just super cool too because it's like I'm 30 minutes away from the track, you know. Usually it's like, oh, I have to drive a couple hours and you know I'm there all day and then I get home late. But it's real cool. The track's it's like a smaller track, but it's fast and it's a lot of fun.
Well, this is where we have to defer to Uncle Paul about this, because I've actually never been to the track for a car race or a motorcycle race. But Paul, did you ever go to Pocono when you were at Cycle News?
Yeah, I actually did. Real early, maybe 86 or 87. They still had they had an AMA Superbike National there. I just remember it being a bit sketchy, but I can't imagine what it's like now. But no, yeah, they used to race Superbikes back there. The last time I was there, God, I remember like one of the things I remember was like John Kaczynski on an FCR 750. But so yeah, it was a long time ago. When I was reading up a little bit on Spencer, where did I come across something that had reference to Easton?
Easton.
I
No?
saw you too.
Maybe the Whiz Kids. I was living out in Easton last year with my older brother Tyler.
Oh, okay. I saw that somewhere. I'm not sure where. Is that, do they make the bats there?
The bats.
Baseball
Yeah.
bats?
Sporting goods,
Do
baseball.
they? I don't
Yeah.
know. So that's
Come on,
my
you
thing.
got to
I don't know.
study
I'm
this
kind of-
stuff. You got to
Yeah,
come in
I'm
here and
kind of
tell us everything
oblivious.
about every town you've ever lived in.
I had no idea they made bats. I know that they made I know about like the steel stacks and everything like that. I didn't know anything about
Yeah,
baseball bats.
they make aluminum bats. I just have thought
Yeah,
maybe
shoot.
it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense because of the metal.
Yeah, no, it adds up. It adds up.
Well, yeah, and Carlisle isn't far from you either, right, Spencer?
Carlisle.
Oh, Carlisle is so that's about maybe 100 miles away. I kind of refer to that. That's actually where Jim Thorpe went to school at Carlisle. But the thing I know about Carlisle is they have a big car swap meet there every year. It's like the fairgrounds or
Oh
something.
yeah. No, that's probably I would say maybe like 2 hours from me. We actually we passed through there on our way up to Pittsburgh.
Okay. So when you get to Pittsburgh next week, is Colin going to be there as well?
I'm not entirely sure. I think he said for sure that he'll be at the Jersey round, but I
Okay.
think he was on the fence if he was going to make it out to Pittsburgh or not. I gotta touch base with him. I gotta see, but
Okay.
yeah,
That's
it'd be good to have him.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to ask you about is this weekend, there's a Wera endurance race there. Have you ever raced in Wera endurance or considered it, or would you like to?
Oh, I would love to. I would
Yeah.
love to get onto like one of those weird teams for sure because I think it's a different discipline of racing. It's not all about the lap times or whatever. It's just consistency and clicking off laps. But nothing's really ever come up. No one's ever really needed a rider. But maybe I just got to put myself out there a little bit more.
Well, it could be too once you're now that you're involved in Twins Cup. I mean, Twins Cup is pretty strong in endurance. I know Gus has done it in the past, and certainly on the R6 or even the R1. I know that Josh Hayes is very involved in it as well. So just I'm thinking with you being on an R7, there might be some connection coming up there at some point. But I also think that I'm pretty sure RoBem Engineering does some stuff with the Aprilia in that. I think they're there this weekend too. But the one thing that's interesting, I think this is right, but you can correct us on this or correct me on this, Spencer. So if you've raced at Pittsburgh, I think you've raced with that chicane the way it was, but you've probably seen the news or heard the news that is being changed this year. Have you been on the old chicane?
So yeah, I was on the old chicane. That was 2 years ago. So I didn't race it last year. But I do recall blowing that first chicane, or I remember
most riders did.
I blew it in race 1 at Pittsburgh, my first race like of the year, with Veloce and everything. I blew it and I gave up the position, so I thought I was fine. And then I'm like, all right, got a solid, like 13th or whatever it was. And they're like, oh no, you got like second to last. I'm like, why? And they're like, you blew the chicane. I was like, yeah, but I gave the positions up. And they're like, nah, it doesn't matter. I was like, damn. But yeah, the new one looks interesting for sure. For sure. I ran the track, what was that, Saturday after riding, and I checked it out a little bit and it looks a little tighter. But
yeah, it's supposed to slow the bikes down more. It's supposed to be a little bit safer. And Spencer, I'm sure you get it. I mean, we talked to the riders about why that's there. Do you understand why it's there? Can you explain it to the listeners?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's there because that turn is blindingly fast, especially like just even on the R7, like this past weekend rolling through there. I'm going like, full pins, so maybe doing 110, 120. And yeah, it's got runoff, but the way it directs you, it's like almost directs you right into that wall. So I can only imagine. I think it was Tony Elias that brought it up, like, hey, like this turns too fast. Like we need to have something to slow us down because it's sketchy. Which I could see it being right. I kind almost wish the chicane wasn't there, but it just adds a little spice to the track, It makes it a little bit more technical. But yeah, definitely it's there to slow you down, It's real fast.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Sometimes, obviously riders want to go as fast as they can, break lap like great wow, break lap records, and the fans want to see it too. But sometimes it's a little tricky, just because the way things are located. And the other part of that, from what we understand, is there's not only a wall, but on the other side of that wall, there's a drop off. So they don't have the real estate to do anything about that situation. So the next thing to do is to try to slow it down via the chicane. And, they try to maybe slow it down a little bit, not a huge amount. Well, how does it say the quickest distance between 2 points is a straight line? So even though that wasn't a straight line through that chicane, some riders tried to make it that way and they bounce off the curbing and stuff. Well, this is definitely, you're not going to be able to take a straight line through this chicane the way it is. And, we may post something later on. We've gotten some photos of it a little bit, but like you said, Spencer, it sounds like you've seen it close up and everything, but it's definitely a little more involved. So it's going to change things. I mean, I think the lap times are obviously going to be slower a little bit. That's just because the bikes are slowed down so much there, but it adds some character to that track, which already has a lot of good character to it anyway. And boy, you're going to be among 41 riders. Realistically, where do you want to be? And I mean, I know you want to win. I know you want a podium like you did at New Jersey. Is that where you think you'll end up? What's your goal?
My goal, is at least the top 5. I think the top 5 will be if Rocco doesn't disappear, right? If that top 5 is together, I think that would be a very reasonable spot for me. I think everyone's super fast, but I think I also have that confidence in myself that, I can be up there. And all year, I've been riding with a couple guys, but no one really, on a twin or on an equal bike that can tow me into a faster lap time or whatever. So I think having someone in front of me really showing, what can really be done on these bikes, I think it's going to help a ton. I did set a lap record down at Summit. And that was, just pushing my own wind. I didn't have anyone in front of me, I was just clicking off the laps. But I think if I have someone in front of me, whatever you can do, I can do. So my goal is the top 5 for sure.
It's funny, thinking back to last year, it was interesting. Comment on this if you would too. So I'm going to say you showed up at New Jersey, but you put the bike on the podium. But I remember you seemed to be in a battle with another rider that just kind of showed up, and it was that Ryoto Aojiwara. You were racing with him, weren't you? And he was,
yeah.
His hair was,
oh my goodness. Yeah, it was. I was absolutely crazy because yeah, I was just running my race and just like, oh man, like this is crazy. But in my head I was like, no, it seemed normal to me because I've ridden with Kayla, I've ridden with Joe, I've ridden with Gus. So it kind of almost just felt like a club race, like the weekend before I was riding with them, but really couldn't hold the pace. But yeah, and he came out of absolutely nowhere. And for him to he set like a 29 something and with no draft, no toe, like nothing. Like he was just like driven, and yeah, he's got crazy talent, especially to push up through the ranks like in a junior cup race like that is crazy. Like even just trying to separate in a junior cup race is a challenge. So for him to gain on us as much as he did and just I think he passed all of us, which was it was 5 wide into turn 1 at Jersey, and that's insane. Yeah, the racing was crazy, and he's got loads of talent for sure.
Didn't Nobi Iso also bring him in?
Yeah, that was Nobi's. That was kind of like that was like Team ESO dress
Yeah,
rehearsal almost with
that's
him,
right. It was.
Yeah,
That's the way
yeah.
to put it. Yeah. I remember I remember seeing, I think when we go to Barber, we all end up at Bucky's at some point there.
Of
And
course.
one night after, after the day, I stopped in at Bucky's and Nobi was walking around with Ojiwara-san, I guess. And the kid didn't look like anything like I thought he would look. I thought he'd look like, somebody with, crazy hair and just like, really, out there. He's just this quiet, fairly small, soft-spoken kid. But I guess when he gets on a bike, he goes crazy. So it was good to see. But yeah, he was good to have in our series. I was hoping we'd see more of him, but we do have Spencer Humphreys coming back though after
That's right.
last year, and we're looking forward to it. It'll be great to see the BartCon team there and get you on an R7. Looking forward to it. And do you know for sure you're going to also be at New Jersey, right?
Yeah, Jersey is in the plan.
Okay.
I am still looking a little bit for some funding for Jersey, but Pittsburgh, I do have it all situated. But
Okay.
Jersey should be able to happen. It's just, making up the coin.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Is there anything we might have left on the table that you want to mention? I didn't mean to put you on
Paul,
the spot.
actually, no, put me on the spot. Paul, I don't know much about you. So give me the
Paul,
rundown on you.
Oh no, we
That's
don't have
right.
time for that.
I'm switching we don't have time for that.
We need another podcast.
This is what I'll do. Sean doesn't drink coffee, but I do.
Okay.
So I'll come by your pit and you can make an espresso for me and we can have a chat. How's that?
I'll have to talk to Scrony. I don't know. We got a Keurig, but
All right.
I think we got a deal.
Whatever. I've drank worse than that.
I know for a fact, staying in a recent Airbnb, that Paul did try their Keurig, so he's okay with that. Even if
I'm good with that.
Even if it's dishwater, I don't know. So anyway, thank you for being on with us. It's good to talk to you. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. So you're going to be among a group of 41 riders in the REV'IT Twins Cup class on a BartCon Racing YZF R7. And we wish you all sorts of luck, and we're looking forward to seeing you in the podcast, in the press conference, because you're so well spoken and we enjoy talking to you. So we want to get you in there and hear how you did in your race to get back on the podium again. So good luck with all that.
Thank you guys very much. It was an honor to be on here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you down there.
All right, thank you guys.